Thank you so much for purchasing the Basics of Cybersecurity course. I hope I will be able to translate my knowledge and expertise to a fruitful experience through this course and other many coming courses. I hope you will enjoy it and benefit from it to the max. Thank you. In this slide, you will find my contact details, my email address. It's fammari@hotmail.com, my LinkedIn account, and my Twitter account. Please feel free to contact me or drop me a message anytime you have question, you have a consultation, you have anything in mind that you would like to share with me. I'm really happy to answer and give feedback to any email or a message I receive. In this slide, you'll find information about my experience and background. I have more than 20 years of experience in the IT industry, starting with programming, as I have programmed many desktop and mobile web applications using many languages like BASIC, COBOL, ANSYS, Assembly, C++, Visual Basic, Java, and other languages. I have worked in system analysis and design, as I have designed many complex applications and solutions to enterprises. I have worked in the project management field, managing multiple projects in a timely and efficient manner, with cost and resource optimization. I have worked in the information security intensively, focusing on the encryption, delivering consultation services to many enterprises. I have worked in the IT audit and governance, and finally in the IT management, managing many departments across the region. I have a PhD degree in information security, as I have obtained my degree from the United Kingdom back in 2013, focusing on the information security and fuzzy logic. My thesis was all about securing financial messages using cryptography. I have managed to secure XML messages from financial institutions in an efficient and robust way, securing those messages in a timely manner, and as I have optimized the W3C recommendation in that regard. I have many publications, whether journal paper or conference paper, in many journals, scientific journals. I have a couple of book chapters published as well, and as I worked in the consultation services for many enterprises. I hope I will be able to translate my expertise and background using this course and other coming courses. Welcome to cybersecurity, which is the fastest moving topic in the IT industry nowadays. In this course, we will explore the space of cybersecurity and main components. We'll check also threats, attacks, prevention methods, hacking techniques, encryption methods, cryptography, and much more. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the course. Main content of the course divided into 5 main chapters. Chapter 1 will talk about the cybersecurity terminology and main components. Chapter 2 will discuss cyber threats and protection. Chapter 3 will talk about cyber risk management. Chapter 4 about cryptography. And finally, business continuity and disaster recovery in chapter number 5. Welcome to chapter 1, which is the introduction to cybersecurity. Let us start by breaking down the concept of cybersecurity, which is actually a set of technologies, processes, and practices, all designed to protect computer assets like networks, computers, programs, and data from being attacked or damaged or even unauthorized access, all to achieve the principle of confidentiality, integrity, and availability of data, which what we call the CIA triangle. Elements of cybersecurity consist of 3 main components. The first component is the confidentiality, the second is integrity, and the third is availability, and we refer to them as the CIA triangle. If we take the first element, which is the confidentiality, we need to make sure that information or resources are hidden from being accessed by unauthorized parties. In other words, only people who are authorized to do so can gain access to sensitive data. Integrity means that we need to ensure that unauthorized changes to data or information are prevented. So we are ensuring the authenticity of information, and the information is not altered, changed, or modified, and to make sure the source of information is genuine. The third element, which is the availability, is to make sure that required data or information is accessible at all times, but only means the information is accessible by authorized users. Let us talk about a few terms within the cybersecurity, like cyberspace. It's actually the virtual domain or virtual environment within the information environment. So it's a part of the information environment that consists of an independent network of information system infrastructures. That might include internet, communication networks, computer system, and integrated processors. So a collection of information system infrastructures. The cybercrime, it's actually the illegal behavior. From its name, the crime means that you are doing a crime within the virtual space. So it's the illegal behavior associated with the global information networks. Threat is the ability to cause serious harm to a computer system. Bear in mind, a threat is something that may or may not happen, but it has the potential to cause massive damage. And threats can lead to attacks on computer systems, networks, and more. There are many forms of possible threats, like physical threats, including floods, fire, war, vandalism, and earthquakes. There's accidental errors, like administrative errors, programming, or software errors. There is unauthorized access, which is the information leakage and hacking systems. We do have a malicious misuse, which is the software or information that is corrupted for fraudulent purposes. And we do have the malware, which is the software that is designed to access or destroy computers or servers without the owner's knowledge. In the coming few slides, we'll talk more about additional terms in cybersecurity like attacks, cyber attacks, information security, hackers, ethical hackers, and so on. Starting with the attacks, it's actually when an unauthorized person is able to access your system or data, with or without your knowledge. And most attacks occur when one or more parts of your system are at risk or exposed or not properly secured. Note that most attacks occur without your knowledge and by using sophisticated tools or applications that could harm your system. Another definition, it's any attack on a computer is an attempt to expose, alter, disable, destroy, steal, or unauthorized access to your assets. Cyber attack is another important term in cybersecurity, which is an attack launched from one or more computer against another computer, multiple computers, or even a complete network. Cyber attacks can be broken down into two types. Attacks where the goal is to disable the target computer or knock it offline, and attacks where the goal is to get access to the target computer's data. Hacker is anyone with technical skills, often referring to someone who uses their capabilities to access unauthorized systems or networks to commit crimes. Now, the ethical hacker is a computer and network expert who systematically tries to hack a computer system or network on behalf of its owners in order to find vulnerabilities that malicious hackers can exploit. So the main target of the ethical hacker is to find vulnerabilities and risks in order to present them to the business owner so they can assess and fix these vulnerabilities. The information security is the protection of information from security threats to maintain confidentiality, integrity, accuracy, and availability of information and associated assets. In the coming slide, we'll differentiate between the information security and cybersecurity. So what's the difference between information security and cybersecurity? The terms cybersecurity and information security are often used interchangeably, as they are responsible for security and computer system protection from threats and information violations. However, there is a difference, which is that information does not have to be on a computer to be in need of an information security system. even if it's stored in a file cabinet. It needs good information security. However, cybersecurity deals with protecting data and information from outside sources in cyberspace or the internet. We can say that cybersecurity is a part of information security. That's the main difference. As we can see in this photo, the intersection between information security and cybersecurity actually is the information involving cyberspace. For the past few slides, we've talked about information assets and resources and ways to protect these resources. So whenever you enter any institution, what you will see in front of you. You might see offices, seats, printers, documents, computers, shelves. You might see even systems, policies, procedures, employees themselves. All of these are the assets and properties of the institution. When talking about information assets, we mean the property and resources of the institution, which contain information or data specific to the organization, regardless of its form and method of storage, and whether these properties are technical documents or properties, or non-technical properties. Technical properties like data processing servers, databases, information systems, data storage units, networks, etc. And non-technical properties like contracts, printed documents like policies and procedures, bank forms, and so on. Let us take a more detailed examples of assets and information resources in the institution. Let's take a bank for example. You'll find the main core banking system, which has data processing systems, integration systems, communication systems, electronic check clearing systems, e-channel system, and so on. You'll find customer databases which has the database management system, human resources management systems, and so on. You'll find networking systems and their protection systems, like data transmission systems. You'll find work procedures, policies, contracts, which is documents in paper format. In the coming few slides, we'll focus on security controls and measures, which are implemented through three main levels that complement each other in order to ensure a secure access to an optimal information security environment from all threats and risks. The first one is the administrative level, which has the administrative controls. We have technical level with their technical controls, and we have the physical level with their physical security controls. First level is the administrative controls, which are also called procedural controls, which are a set of policies and procedures in place to define and direct employee actions in dealing with sensitive information for the institution. So it's concerned with how to conduct the business and how to conduct the daily operations. Let's consider the policies and procedures as the guidance who guides the employees to perform their daily business and operations. The second level of security controls is the technical controls, which are implemented primarily by the system through hardware, software, or even system firmware, including encryption, smart card, access control list, file auditing software. The third level of security controls is the physical controls, which is the implementation of security measures in a specific structure that is used to prevent unauthorized physical access to sensitive materials. For example, we have CCTV cameras, motion alarm systems, locked steel doors, biometrics including voices, iris, fingerprints. Hello again and welcome to Chapter 2, the Cyber Threats and Protection. In this chapter we will discuss and explore the impact of security breaches. We'll explore the most important risks. We'll explore the personal protection, risk and risk types, and finally the top cyber threats faced by organizations like identity thefts, malware, phishing, and more. We'll start the chapter with the impact of security breaches. The first is the reputation loss. Any attack or breach on the organization level will affect the reputation of that organization, either directly or indirectly. Financial loss is the second impact of the security breaches. The third one is the intellectual property loss, loss of customer confidence, and finally business interruption cost. We'll sum all of these impacts with loss of goodwill. One of the most important topics to discuss in this chapter is personal information and its protection. Personal information is one of the most important data to ensure that it is permanently protected. Personal information may include the person's name, address, medical records, bank account details, photos, videos, and even information about what an individual likes and views. Now, how to protect our personal information, how to reach a good level of protection for our information. We need to safely manage our passwords. We need to safely manage our email accounts. We need to secure our computers. We need to protect the data we have. We need to avoid risky behavior online. And we need to be aware of safety guidelines, policies, and procedures. More details in the coming slides. How to safely manage your password. You need to create and maintain a strong password. A combination of letters and numbers and characters is a good example of a strong password. You need to consider using a passphrase. You need to avoid sharing your password with anyone. Avoid reusing the same password for multiple accounts. And you need to avoid storing your password on a piece of paper or on a text file unencrypted. You need to avoid reusing the password when changing the account password. And do not use the automatic login function. There are many easy ways to generate a strong password. You can use many online services free of charge, like strongpasswordgenerator.com, where you can use their password generator for free to create a strong password that has letters, numbers, capital letters, small letters, and so on. In the next video, you will see how to log into the site and use their service. In order to safely manage your email account, you need to avoid opening attachments from untrusted sources. Also, to avoid clicking on links in an email from untrusted sources as well. Avoid providing your user ID, password, or other confidential information in an email message or in response to an email message. Be careful with email phishing scams. To properly secure your computer, you need to lock your computer when you are not available. Log it out or close it when finished. Disconnect your computer from the wireless network when using a wired network. Correct and update your operating system. Install and update antivirus and anti-malware software with the latest security definitions. You need to create a unique user ID when sharing a computer with others, and enable pop-up blocker on your browser. To protect your data, you need first to understand the type of data stored on your device. You need to distinguish between different file formats in your device. Word documents, Excel documents, PDF documents, images, videos, and so on. You need to avoid storing personally identifiable information, the PII, on local storage devices, such as laptops, USBs, and handheld computers. You need to pay attention to the following. When email sensitive data, you need to use encryption. When setting a password settings, you need to send the document password in a separate email. When backup, do the backup regularly. Be careful when getting rid of data. Separate your personal files from your work files. To avoid risky behavior online, you need to be wary of phishing scams. Use caution when handling attachments and links in emails, chat rooms, or instant messaging. You need to avoid answering questions through pop-ups or click on links in a pop-up window. You need to be careful when using peer-to-peer file sharing applications, and be careful when browsing the web. Single spelling mistake can direct you directly to unwanted websites. Be aware of safety guidelines, policies, and procedures. You need to understand the instructions for appropriate use of administrator's access, you need to understand copyright violations guidelines, data sanitization and disposal guidelines, data protection guidelines, mobile device security and usage, password management guidelines. What is risk? In this slide, we will differentiate between risk, threat, and vulnerability. Risk is a possibility that a threat exploits a vulnerability in an asset and causes damage or loss to the asset. Threat is something that can potentially cause damage to the organization, IT system, or network. Vulnerability is a weakness in the organization, IT system, or network that can be exploited by a threat. In brief, vulnerability is a weakness in the organization or IT systems or network that can be exploited by a threat to become a possible risk. Risk is affected by probability and impact. We have a low risk when we do have a low probability and low impact. We do have a moderate risk when we have a high probability, low impact, and low probability, high impact. Risk is high when the probability is high and the impact is high. This illustration shows how the risk degree affected by probability and impact. In the first image, we can see that the risk is moderate due to high probability and low impact. The second image shows a low risk due to low probability and low impact. The third one shows a moderate risk due to low probability and high impact, and the fourth one shows a high risk due to high probability and high impact. In this slide and the coming few slides, we'll review top cyber threats faced by organizations, starting with identity theft, which is actually a cyber threat in which the attacker aims at obtaining confidential information that is used to identify a person or even a computer system. Such confidential information may be identifiable names, addresses, contact data, credentials, financial data, health data, logs, etc., etc. Subsequently, this information is abused to impersonate the owner of the identity. Identity theft actually is a special case of data breach. It is a result of successful attack through other cyber threats that target identity information. Identity theft can be achieved from so many sources, like stolen wallet, stolen mail, computer virus, phishing and social engineering, social networking accounts, license plate, health records, financial data. Identity theft comes in many forms, like credit card fraud, or financial identity theft, criminal and government identity theft board number, and mortgage fraud. The table on the right side shows the top 5 types of identity theft back in 2018, with more than 323,000 reported incidents, costing more than $488 million in losses. As we can see, credit card fraud tops the chart with 40% of reported incidents. There's also tax fraud, mobile telephone, and credit card fraud for existing accounts. This gives a clear indication that identity theft is a major risk that we need to handle. Another major threat faced by organizations is malware. Malwares are programs designed specifically to disable, damage, or obtain unauthorized access to a computer system. There are many types of malware like spam, worms, Trojan horses, spyware, computer viruses, and much more. Viruses are considered one of the most common types of malware. They are just like biological viruses. They infect other clean files and they can spread uncontrollably, destroying the basic functions of the system and deleting or destroying files. Usually they are appearing as an executable file with exe file extension. The first virus created in 1971 as Creeper virus. There are many other viruses like ELK cloner virus, I love you virus that destroyed more than 50 million files back in the year 2000 with a loss of $9 billion. Now Trojans are another type of malware that is masked as illegitimate or hidden in illegitimate programs that have been tampered with. It tends to act in stealth mode and create a hidden door into the system to allow entry of other malware. There are so many examples like Trojan Banker, Trojan DDoS, Trojan Downloader, and Trojan Dropper. Spyware is another type of malware that is designed to spy on you. It hides in the background and takes notes about what you do online, including passwords, credit card numbers, browsing habits, and much more. Many examples of spyware like Cool Web Search, FinFisher, Go Keyboard, HuntBar, and Movieland. Worms, another type of malware that infect entire networks of devices, whether local or over the internet, using network interfaces, and use each infected device respectively to infect others. Many worms examples like internet worms, email worms, instant messaging worms, file sharing worms, and IRC worms. Ransomware is another type of malware that usually closes or encrypts your computer and files and threatens to erase everything unless you pay a ransom within a specified time period. As we can see in the image below, this is a kind of warning that is displayed once the files are encrypted on your device. The message says that we have encrypted your files with CryptoLocker virus and details how to pay the ransom in order to recover your file. Adware. Although aggressive advertising programs are not always harmful in nature, but they can undermine your security simply by showing ads, which can provide an introduction to other malware in an easy way. Adware can slow your device, can eat up your data, can spy on you, can be displayed as pop-ups. Botnets. These are networks of infected computers designed to work together under the control of an attacker. Many examples of botnets like Conficker, Zeus, Waldak, and much more. Phishing is one of the major threats faced by organizations, where it uses email, pop-ups, or malicious websites to obtain personal information by pretending to be a trustworthy organization. For example, an attacker might apparently send email from a reputable credit card company or financial institution asking for account information, often indicating a problem. When users respond with the required information, attackers can use these details to access their accounts. Spam is a very common threat still faced by organizations, where inappropriate or unwanted messages are sent online, usually to a large number of users, for advertising, phishing, and spreading malware. Threat number 5 is denial of service, a cyber attack in which the perpetrator seeks to make a device or network resource unavailable to the intended users by temporarily or indefinitely disabling a host's internet services. Threat number 6 is insider threat, the threat that insiders use to gain authorized access, intentionally or unintentionally, to harm the security of the organization. Number 7 is information leakage. It's information that was accidentally disclosed to end users, which may assist attackers in their efforts to breach the security of applications and systems. Threat number 8, human errors. Staff errors and omissions take the largest share of threats to information security at the global level. Many examples for human errors, like an employee accidentally deletes sensitive data from the system or does not realize the importance of this data. An employee allows unauthorized persons to access sensitive data using his login information. An employee performs a specific procedure in the wrong way, resulting from bad or poor training. The employee lack of awareness of the effect of risk-facing information security, especially the effects of malware on him. Now, with the most important risks and cyber threats, we have the password security, we have email security, we have the physical security, ATM fraud, mobile security, and social media protection. We will review in details each and every one of these items in later slides. In a previous slide, we discussed the password management and how to manage our password to keep it safe and secure. Now we'll talk about the password security itself. How to have a strong, solid password. You need to use at least 8 characters. Avoid dictionary names and words. Don't make your password personal, so it's easy to predict. Avoid expected patterns and formulas. Includes numbers, capital letters, and symbols. Complicated password. Use the password manager more often. On the right side, we have an example of a strong password. You can see the whole sentence is, I met Susan Morris at Lincoln High School in 1991. If you take the first initial of each word, you will find a strong, solid password. Here's a list of the most or top 20 insecure passwords. You can see easy to predict patterns, you can see dictionary words, you can see sequential letters. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, admin, welcome, monkey, login. These are the most insecure passwords you need to avoid. To have a proper security for your email, do not open email attachments unless you know what they are. Be aware of suspicious email signs like not addressed to you by name, dear applicant, dear friend, dear recipient, etc. Asks for personal or financial information like your full name for details, full address, bank accounts, credit card accounts, etc. Asks you for your passwords and asks you to forward it to a lot of other people. Physical security can be achieved in many forms, starting with the Clean Desktop Policy Guidelines. Don't leave any papers or forms that may contain sensitive information scattered in your workplace. You need to keep all your papers and worksheets in a safe place, like drawers and closed cabinets. And if you don't need them anymore, just use a paper shredding machine. When you leave your office or workroom, you must close the doors and close the windows tightly. You have to sit in a way in which clients and visitors cannot look at your computer screen. And in case you have to leave the client for a short period of time, lock your computer. How to protect your sensitive information. When finished with printed sensitive material, you need to tear it off or shred it by the shredding machine. If you have to store data in a removable media, make sure that the physical media is stored in a safe place and that the data is password protected. Never copy sensitive data to CDs, disks, or portable storage devices. Avoid sharing any sensitive data over the phone. Don't share your personal and financial information with others. ATM fraud is the use of an ATM card to withdraw funds instantly from a consumer account using password-based transactions at the ATM machine. There are 4 main types of ATM fraud: skimming, shimming, cash out, and jackpotting. ATM risk prevention mechanism. Never share your card or PIN with anyone else. Check the ATM machine before using it, and don't be afraid to wave the card reader or PIN board. And if it appears either loose or the machine falls down, this may indicate the presence of an external piece. Notice the people in front of you in the queue at the ATM. If you see unusual behavior, such as a person using more than one card to get money, or someone who seems to tamper with the machine, don't use it. If your direct debit card was lost or stolen, or you believe sensitive information such as personal identification number or card number or online banking login has been compromised, contact your bank immediately. Tips for mobile security. Close the laptop if you leave it unattended. Apply a password protected screen lock. Don't store sensitive information such as username, passwords, social security numbers, bank account numbers, or credit card numbers on the device. Backup data on a computer or server if your mobile device goes missing. Store important data separately. There are many forms of storage media you can use like CDs, DVDs, flash drives, USBs, etc. By saving your data on a removable media and keep it in a different location, you can protect your data even if your laptop is stolen. In this infographic, you will be surprised of what happens in an internet minute. According to 2019 statistics, there's around 3.8 million search queries on Google, around 1 million Facebook logins, around 18.1 million texts submitted, around $1 million spent online, around 2.1 million snap created, and many more. This will shed a light on what kind of security and protection that we need to prevent any hacks or attacks on our social media accounts. How to achieve social media protection in a corporate level. Make sure to train users to use corporate social media accounts, not the personal accounts. Ensure that users are aware of what can be posted and cannot be published using corporate social media accounts. Ensure that users are aware of response processes to post sensitive or inappropriate information. Ensure that users are aware of the hijacking of corporate social media accounts. Ensure that users' access to corporate social media accounts, whether direct or delegated, is immediately revoked once there is no requirements for access. Welcome back in chapter number 3, Cyber Risk Management. In this chapter, we will review and explore the definition of risk management, and also will explore the main functions of risk management. Then we will review risk management methodology, then responding to risks, and finally risk reporting. In this chapter, we will discuss the meaning of risk management, which is the procedures that organizations systematically follow to confront the risks associated with their activities, with the aim of achieving sustainable benefits from each activity. Main functions of risk management: linking between the probability of an event and its consequences. Identify, measure, and reduce expected risks. Control of negative impacts and new risks that may occur. What's the methodology of risk management? There's risk identification, risk analysis, risk response planning, and monitoring and controlling risk. Starting with risk identification. Ongoing and continuous process. New risks may arise during the implementation of each stage or task in the project. This process requires knowledge of the organization, market, and environment, a sound understanding of the organization's goals, strategy, and operating environment. Identification tools like brainstorming, fish outline, and common stakes. What are the risk identification methods? The first method is goal-based identification. Any event that prevents the organization's predetermined goals from being achieved, in whole or in part, is considered dangerous. Method number 2 is the scenario-based selection. Different scenarios are created that may be alternative ways to achieve a goal. Any event that generates a scenario that is different from the perceived and undesirable is known to be dangerous. Risk is classified into internal risks, which is the expected type of risk, and external risks that do not depend on the management. It's sudden due to the environment surrounding the institution. Back to risk identification methods, we have method number 3, which is the classification-based identification. It is a breakdown of all possible sources of risks. Method number 4 is the common risk review. The institutions have lists of potential risks from previous experience and work in similar projects. We can identify from them the risks that may hinder the success of the institution. Now moving to the second pillar of risk management methodology, which is risk analysis. Starting with the first type of risk analysis is the qualitative analysis, which depends on the probability of realization of the risk and its consequences or effects, and also on the effect and degree of expansion of the potential risk effect. Arrangements of risk is made according to the degree of their impact on the organization's goal, and the degree of measurement is high, medium, or low. The second type of risk analysis is the quantitative analysis. It's to provide a quantitative description calculated on the basis of the probability of occurrence and the consequences of the risk that constitutes a monetary or other value. The weighted risk factor WFR technique is used to calculate risk probability, risk consequences, and organization's priorities. So the risk factor equals probability times impact. This is an example of how risk factor is calculated, which is again probability times impact. The first row of the table, we call it risk 1. The risk factor of it is 125, which is the probability 5% times the impact 25%. Another example is risk number 3, which is 30% probability and 1% impact. The risk factor is still high, 30. The final example is risk number 5. As you can see, the probability is 80%, which is a high probability, but the impact is 5%, a low impact. The risk factor is still a large number, which is 400. So whether your probability is high or impact is high, result or risk factor will be high. The third pillar of risk management methodology is risk response planning. We've talked about risk identification, then risk analysis, and now risk response planning. Why do we need risk response planning? To plan for negative risks, which may affect the institution's ability to achieve its goals. Also to plan for beneficiary risks, which can be used as an opportunity to achieve positive benefits. Responses to negative risks may include shifting the risk, avoiding the risk, reducing risks, sharing risks, accept or take risks. The third pillar of risk management methodology is risk response planning. We've talked about risk identification, then risk analysis, and now risk response planning. Why do we need risk response planning? To plan for negative risks, which may affect the institution's ability to achieve its goals. Also to plan for beneficiary risks, which can be used as an opportunity to achieve positive benefits. Responses to negative risks may include shifting the risk, avoiding the risk, reducing risks, sharing risks, accept or take risks. So what does it mean to respond to a risk? A risk response is the process of selecting and implementing procedures to change risks. It's also the process of implementing the plan to treat risk, which is the primary goal of all of the previous stages, and preparing for implementation. How do we respond to risks? As mentioned before, we need to accept risk or shift it, or to avoiding it, or minimizing it, or sharing it, or taking it. So we have to choose how do we respond to risks surrounding us. The fourth and final pillar of risk management methodology is risk monitoring and control. Effective risk management requires a reporting and auditing system to ensure effective identification and examination of risks. So it's not a one-time job, it's a continuous process, needs to be performed on a periodic level. Risk reporting. As mentioned in the previous slide, and to monitor and control risks, that we need risk reporting, along with audit systems to make sure of the effectiveness of risk identification and examination. So we do have internal reports and external reports. Internal reports is a variety of information about the risks presented to different levels within the institution. to provide good awareness among the concerned departments, board of directors, and individuals. External reports, which is reports submitted by the institution to stakeholders on regular basis, explaining the risk management policies and the extent of effectiveness in achieving their goals. So what's the importance of reports, whether internal or external reports? Knowledge of the most important risk facing the organization. Also working to increase awareness within the organization of the importance of risk management and the risks themselves. Continuous knowledge of how to manage risk in a timely manner. Also to determine who is responsible for the new risks. Knowing how to manage communications with different departments and ensuring that risk management activities are implemented effectively. Finally, issuing a clear risk management policy that covers the philosophy of risk management and its responsibility. Risk management tasks. Here is a list of the main responsibilities and tasks performed by risk management. Plan how to use data and direct it in the right direction. Creating an event database to reach a clear view of all tasks. Define the tasks, responsibilities, activities, and budget necessary for all tasks. Determine the appropriate schedule in accordance with the timetable for carrying out the task in the institution. Create a channel to send reports to all members of the risk management team. Preparing plans to mitigate the risks chosen. And finally, continuously review and evaluate the plan and update the results of the risk analysis process. Welcome back in chapter 4, which is all about cryptography. So what is cryptography? It's actually the process in which information is hidden by a secret key and a specific algorithm. The person who knows the key and knows the encryption algorithm can decode or recover the original information. Encryption is the process of converting from plain text into non-explicit ciphertext. This photo represents the cryptography life cycle. Whether we want to encrypt a message from plain text into ciphertext, or we want to decrypt a message from ciphertext to plain text. As you can see, we are using secret key to encrypt the message and using secret key as well to decrypt the message. From the left side or from the right side, the process it's the same. What's the cryptography key? It's the password used in the encryption algorithm or decryption and is considered one of the most important things to hide. What's the cryptography algorithm? It's the mathematical procedure for performing encryption on data. Through the use of an algorithm, information is made into meaningless ciphertext and requires the use of a key to transform the data back into its original form. So what are the goals behind cryptography? 3 main goals behind cryptography, starting with confidentiality, which is the most commonly addressed goal. The meaning of the message is concealed in the ciphertext. Goal number 2 is the integrity, ensures that the message received is the same as the message that was sent. Third goal is the authenticity. So a user or system can prove their identity to another who does not have personal knowledge of their identity. The idea of encryption works on several methods. The most common methods are the substitution ciphers, hidden messages, shift cipher, algorithmic cipher, statistical. We'll start with the encryption elements. We do have the algorithm, encryption key, the original data, the plain text that we have, and code text or ciphertext. Encryption types. We have 2 main types for encryption. The first one is symmetric encryption. It uses one key for data encryption and decryption. So we are using the same key for both operations. This type of encryption depends on the secret key used. as the person who owns the key can decrypt and read the content of the message or files. The second type of encryption is the asymmetric encryption, and this type of encryption was first developed in 1970s in Britain and was used exclusively by certain sectors of the government. The main principle behind this type of encryption is using two keys, private key and public key. The public key is used to encrypt the messages, and the private key is used for decrypting them. The public key can be submitted to all people, while the private key is kept by its owner and not sent to anyone. So we are using two keys here. The public key is used to encrypt the original text, and the private key is used to decrypt the message. Public key can be submitted to anyone. The private key should be kept only by its owner. We'll review now some examples of symmetric encryption, starting with Caesar cipher. And it's considered one of the oldest methods invented by Julius Caesar to create coded messages between sectors of the army. And it has proven effective in that time. But in our modern age, and with the development of the computer, this method cannot be used because of the speed of detection of the content of encrypted messages. Another symmetric encryption example is the DES, Data Encryption Standard. And this encryption type was developed in 1970s by the National Security Agency. This encryption type is insecure, and this is mainly due to the 56-bit key size being too small. In January 1999, Distributed.net and Electronic Frontier Foundation collaborated to publicly break a DES key in 22 hours and 15 minutes. Additional set of symmetric encryption examples like AES or Advanced Encryption Standard, IDEA, TripleDES, Blowfish. They are all advanced and proven systems in the field of encryption. And here are a few examples of asymmetric encryption like PGP, DSA, Diffhammon, Elegmal, and RSA. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of symmetric and asymmetric encryption? Symmetric encryption is much faster with modern computer systems, but it only uses one key and is more vulnerable to hacks. Asymmetric encryption uses two keys in the process of encryption and decryption, which is stronger and less vulnerable to penetrations, but it's slower than traditional encryption. So how the encryption is measured? By two factors: the strength of encryption algorithm and the encryption key used. Hello and welcome back in chapter number 5, our last chapter in this course, and it's all about business continuity. In this chapter we will review the definition of business continuity, and then we will discuss and review business continuity components, and finally we will know how to develop a business continuity plan. To give a clearer idea about business continuity, we do planning for the worst while hoping that it won't happen is something that all security professionals do. The meaning that we plan for the worst case scenario and we hope it won't reach that level. But whenever it hits that target, we are ready and prepared for our business to continue its operations without any issues. Disaster recovery is a key part of the business continuity, as we will see in the later slides. So what is business continuity? A clear definition of business continuity: it's a program that works on planning, maintenance, and updating of plans and activities in a way that supports the institution's ability to continue providing its critical operations under all circumstances. In detailed explanation, that the Business Continuity Management Program aims to put in place policies and strategies that supports the institution's ability to face events and recover from its effects with minimal losses, and also to give flexibility to the institution and its operational processes to develop plans from the necessary teams to implement the program in order to support the goals of senior management and achieve its vision. One of the most critical and important components within the business continuity is the disaster recovery plan. It includes the information and procedures needed to resume an organization's operation after some sort of disaster. Disaster recovery plan is often IT focused, where it includes hardware, software, networking, connections, and other IT related items. So the main components of business continuity is the business continuity management policy and program. The business continuity policy forms the framework and basis for the business continuity program, which is a repetitive process of implementing a business continuity course which aims in the long run to raise the institution's capacity in this area. Inclusion of business continuity management in the enterprise culture by adopting the concept of business continuity in the organization's strategy as well as in daily administrative operations, and taking into account the issue of business continuity in planning and implementing operations and projects by different departments. Understanding the institution, its goals, operations, and the needs of those processes in order to determine the critical and important ones and provide everything needed to restore its work within the determinants that ensure the institution and its reputation are not affected by business stoppages. And this is known as business vulnerability analysis. Determine the business continuity strategy based on the information of the previous stage, which is business impact analysis, BIA, so that the time required to retrieve operations and determine the different strategies to achieve this according to business needs is determined. Then choose the most appropriate strategies for the institution. The next step is to develop and implement appropriate plans to deal with different events according to the impact of those events through business continuity plans. Finally, tests, exercises, reviews, and audits regarding business continuity, as it is necessary to test plans, procedures, and employees to ensure the ability to respond to events as they happen, and must be constantly reviewed to ensure that they meet business needs. So how to properly plan the business continuity? The graph on the right side shows the 7 stages for properly planning the business continuity, starting with establishing a planning committee. Phase number 2, conduct a business impact analysis. Phase 3, mitigate risk. Then establish business continuity strategies. Step number 5, develop your plan. 6 is to implement and train, and finally to test the plan. Starting with the first phase, which is establishing a planning committee. Committee members may include practice managers and supervisors. Phase number 2 is to conduct a business impact analysis, and the BIA supports the entire business continuity process, and it's a process used to identify, quantify, and qualify the impact of a loss, interruption, or disruption. A BIA identifies mission critical activities and the time frame within which they must be recovered. Phase number 3 is to mitigate risk, and this practice is conducted to mitigate risks that threaten the operations, company assets, or the environment by reducing the risk to an acceptable level. Phase number 4 is to establish business continuity strategies that may include cross-training, outsourcing, use of secondary suppliers, work-at-home strategies, mobile offices, manuals and procedures in case computer systems were down. Phase number 5 is to develop your plan, and this may include policies, purposes, scope, goals, objectives, assumptions, key roles and responsibilities, BIA's results, risk mitigation plans, off-site data and storage requirements, business recovery and continuity strategies, plan activation and responses, training, drills, exercises, communications and notification plans. Phase number 6 is to implement and train employees. This is a very important phase, is to conduct training for employees with key roles and assignments in business continuity, disaster recovery, and incident response processes. Finally is to test the plan, exercise everything, strategies, plans, rehearsing with coworkers, testing systems, testing infrastructures, testing the technology to demonstrate business continuity. We have reached end of the course. Thank you for being a part of this journey. I hope you enjoyed the course. I hope it added value to your knowledge, and I wish you all the best in your cybersecurity journey. If I can be of help in any way, or if you have questions, please feel free to contact me using my email or my social media accounts, and I will respond to you immediately. Again, thank you for being part of my cybersecurity course. Please recommend this course to others. I wish you all the best.